Mhm. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, to start off with, would you like to say your name and where you are?
My name is Nima Abbaspour, and I'm in Tehran, Iran.
Okay. I've never been here before, so this is interesting. So the first question for you is, who are you as a human being? And that can be everything from your values, your passions, or qualities about yourself that you would like to share.
Who am I as a human being? It feels like it takes 80 years to answer this question. Um, um, well, I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a friend. I used to be an engineer, and to be honest with you, I have some sort of pride in my heart that I was an engineer. I'm a psychotherapist. I used to be actually, I'm a retired miner. And yeah, that turned into a seeker. And I think I used to be, actually, I am a seeker for most of my life, but now I'm not as a serious seeker as I used to be. I'm more a laid back seeker, enjoying the process. And I can
So
also
maybe
see that
more of an explorer than a seeker right now.
yeah, that's right. Enjoying the process and exploring what comes in life. What else I am? I also feel that I'm close to like crossroads in my life that I need to have a new balance in my life, maybe a new direction, to um, to to make it more meaningful and to be more to feel more useful and constructive and do things that are meaningful to me. I don't know what that is. I just have this feeling that something is emerging and I don't know what is that. So, but I can feel that something is coming. Yeah, so far that's
Yeah.
who I am.
No, it sounds sort of like many lives in one lifetime so far.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
what would you say are some of your values, some of the core things that you orient around?
Core values. I don't know if this is an answer to your question, but there's something that these days I'm very concerned about, and I think about it a lot, and that's about bringing back the simplicity that is natural and is out there. But I don't know whether it's because of the science or because of our analytical methods. Everything has become so complicated. In a sense, um, it's very simple to perceive that like an apple blossom turns into an apple. It's a simple thing. But as soon as you try to figure it out, then it's complex and it's everything changes. And I have this feeling that it's a lost language that we used to have, that simplicity, that directness, that clarity. And so I would like what I long for, what I am very concerned about in my life is to maintain that simplicity and to communicate as simple as it can be and to do things as simple as they truly are. So this is one of my values, I would say, the simplicity. Um, Connection is another value that I appreciate a lot. Connection, support, um, caring for each other, and creating something as well. That's very close to my heart, being able to create something. And that's why I enjoyed being an engineer because in that uh, in that zone, it was so common and easy, and a part of my life to design something and build it and see it moving or doing things. Uh, this is another value that I appreciate.
Yeah, I've learned and I've come to appreciate how creative engineers are. I used to have the stereotype that they were like square and straight and not creative, but they are. Well,
They
what?
are,
They
yeah.
are creative? Or they're
They are, yes.
a little bit of both. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So a little bit about some of your context or your history. I would like to ask what comes to mind as a specific event or as a set of circumstances that you would say really significantly defined or shaped who you are.
Mhm. Hmm. That's a difficult question. So basically, we're talking about the ground, and there have been lots of ground around it that shaped. One of them is that my father was an engineer. So, so when you're an engineer, then everything is structured and everything is determined. So there's no that much space to mm, to move around, to be flexible with, and I think that has really affected me, especially in the early years of my life. And maybe that's why I became a miner as a child. Instead of being on the ground, I started to dig in everything, and I ended up in somewhere dark and got lost there because I felt the space was so tight, and I needed another space to uh, feel comfortable, and I found it underground. Um, and at the same time, I should say that um, my father is a risk taker and is a persistent, resilient um, guy who would never give up. And I think I inherited that as well. So I spent, I don't know, maybe 30 years of my life trying to seek a way out into the surface from where I was. And I did it persistently, and I never thought that I can't do it, which is how my father is. Hmm. And I think as soon as I became a therapist, um, the care that I had from my mother um, became more figural for me, and it became more available to me to use it in my private practice. And there have been so many other events that I think has shaped me. One of the things that I can think of is actually it was very recent, like um, maybe 3 4 years ago. Um, I have a friend which is very close to me, and we're like brothers, and we used to work together. And during the time that we were working together, um, I hurt I hurt him badly without knowing that what I was doing with him. And I don't know if you have ever experienced this, that there are moments that you kind of wake up and see how you have impacted someone else, or sometimes you see yourself in someone else's actions or reactions, and it was an eye-opening moment for me. uh, I think I clearly saw my selfishness or narcissism, and it was so painful. It was so painful. I had never experienced such a thing, seeing myself so clearly doing something really, really hurtful. And But anyways, uh, we made we talked together for months, and by the end, he accepted my apology, and I think afterwards something really shifted in me, and I can say I became more humble, and I realized that it's not that just others who are selfish. I was really selfish, and um, it was a gift for me to experience that, and it really changed me.
So these are also people who have influenced you in circumstances.
Yes.
Mhm. Hmm. And would you say that there is a particular person maybe who you didn't mention, or someone you want to say something more about, who has helped you or changed you or shifted you in your life?
I can name so many people, like Tony Greco for sure. He was my therapist, and he's somehow I don't know how to say it, but he's somehow um, supported me in re-owning my manhood, that kind of thing. And or for example, J Tropianskaya, uh, uh, my teacher, and I think what the gift that she gave me was seeing my intuition and trusting my intuition. And if before that, I was never in touch with this thing that I have. But she's so generous in giving gifts, and I think this was one of the most important things that I got in terms of my in terms of how it helped me in my private practice. And there's so many people. Uh, Although what I'm experiencing these days, that in the past it was more common for me to have like singular events that deeply had an impact on me. But as time goes on, and maybe as I age, there are more like ordinary things that really affect me and really teach me, like seeing clients, um, or seeing my daughter who's almost 5 years old. There are lots of things that I learned, and these are not like um, insignificant things. They are significant things, and so it has shifted from those big moments into so many tiny but powerful moments, I would say.
Interesting. So you've mentioned a couple of things that I would like to ask some more about. One of them is you mentioned something about yourself as a man. So I'm curious, how you have come to understand and experience yourself in terms of gender, masculinity, how you understand all of that in yourself.
Woo. Can we go with this in an easier question?
We could, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm just joking. It's an interesting question, actually. I don't know. It just feels like there are different stages. There have been different stages in my life in terms of how I experience myself as a man. Mm, One of the challenging things for me has been like being a male and yet caring psychotherapist. And I would say one of the things that Tony really helped me with it was this issue, because he's a tough guy. Although he's goofy, but he's tough. And so one day he told me that I might feel like a wolf. I don't know if you know or not, but wolves take care of their family, and back then that was my role. So you're a wolf, you're dangerous, and you're still caring, and you have a soft side as well, and that was very helpful for me in terms of integrating the softness and the hardness, the mm, the male quality versus the female quality as well. Um, that's what comes to my mind at this moment in terms of how I experience my being being in this body, being a man in this world. Um, I used to think that it's hard to be a woman in the world, and it has changed a little bit. Now I think it's hard to be both of them, not just a woman. Being a man has lots of consequences as well. Like there are lots of traditional roles that you have to take over while you are scared, or you can't keep up with, or uh, you need so much support for it, or there are times that you need just to escape. But as a man, you have to stay. You can't easily escape. Um, and there have been lots of things similar to these kind of stereotypes or traditional roles that I, as a man, have gone through. And um, at the end, I can say it's fun to be a man.
Well, I'm imagining that those traditions and stereotypes also shift depending on where you are in the world.
I think so, yeah.
And I'm getting you have been moving through different parts of the world as you've experienced yourself as well.
Yes, yeah. I immigrated to Canada in 2010, and I was there till 2016. And afterwards, I'm back and forth, but uh, I'm not permanently there. So I'm there. I'm here in Iran. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it may not be fair for me to put that in there because it's not something that you brought up, but I move through, being in different places which have, they're very, very different contexts, different expectations, different roles.
Yeah.
But
and it's a huge learning. Like immigration was a huge thing for me. Just this. I'm sure that you have this experience that when you start to speak another language, for me it was the first time that I realized how my own language, how my first like mother language was. I started to get a sense that, okay, so how was it like the language that I was speaking, or even the culture? As long as you're immersed in one thing, you can't see it. But when you go somewhere else and experience something different, uh, then things become more clear and formed. And I think I would say immigration was one of the things that really impacted my life and shaped it in a new way.
yeah, I agree with that. I'm just thinking about Gianni Franceschetti and the fish saying, "What's water?"
Yeah. So true.
Mm-hmm. So another question I was going to ask is about your age. I'm not sure exactly how old you are. That doesn't necessarily matter. But how are you experiencing age and the aging process?
That's a great question because this is something that I'm recently experiencing. I'm 44. Actually, I became 44 the day before yesterday.
Oh, so it's new. Happy birthday.
It's very new. Thanks. The way I experience it is something really significant because I can experience how my life force energies quality is changing, and I don't want to say it, but it's true, and it is. I can see the decline. I'm not the guy whom I used to be like 5 years ago or 3 years ago. I can see that my pace is slowing down, and even my body temperature. Uh, I used to be. I remember the first time that I was in Toronto. It was minus 30 degrees, and I was just with a sweatshirt and a thin layer of something, and it was okay. I was trembling, but it was okay. But these days, if I go somewhere which is -5, I really feel cold. And so this is something that I had never experienced before. And or like my eyesight is weakening. In fact, I should wear glasses, but I haven't started wearing glasses yet. So there are lots of changes that I'm experiencing, and I haven't it's a new process for me, so I haven't got anywhere with it. I haven't, how should I say it? I haven't come in terms with it, but I can see that I have to, like, in a very
So you realized it's
close
not
future.
going away.
Yes, yeah.
Interesting. So another question for you is how you would say you experience and understand, maybe on different levels, power and privilege in your life.
Mhm. You mean my experiences with power and privilege?
Either, how you have it, where and how it is in systems around you. I mean, there's
Mhm.
a lot of different ways, just whatever comes up for you.
Yes, yeah. Well, first of all, being in Iran is already tied with so many things. So when you go out of country as an Iranian, um, I can say that you, I do experience that suspicious look or being undermined in so many occasions. And even beyond that, being a Middle Eastern, and especially a Middle Eastern man, uh, there are lots of stereotypes associated with that. And I have experienced it a lot when I was in Canada or in Europe. Um, and I should say it's really hard to experience those things um, almost constantly. Um, mm, this is actually one of my toughest encounters with experiencing these kind of things. And but on the other side, when I moved to Canada, when I experienced, I don't want to call it racism, but something like that. Uh, um, it opened my eyes about how racist I am towards other nationalities in Iran, and how we were tough with them or how we undermine them. So it was just fair. I was experiencing something that I might have created that experience with for someone else. Um, these are the these are the most significant encounters I have had with power and privilege. Um, there's another thing that is it's hard for me to describe it in English, but it's about the power of structures. When I moved to Canada and experienced that, I would call it that organized, structured society versus our messy, unstructured uh, society in Iran. Um I could clearly see the pros and cons. Here, everything is messed up, so there's no structure, and you are free. But there, everything is structured, so it looks like that you are free, but you are not free compared to how we are free here. And there are lots
I
of
say the same about Mexico. I mean, there's possibility where there is
exactly,
chaos, but when there's already a structure, there's so much limitation.
exactly, yes. And you have to live like in those opposite cultures in order to be able to sense that, to see that. Um, uh, so in that sense, I experienced the power of structures in modern societies or in those kind of societies. And one of the reasons that um, I was not sure whether I want to live in Canada for the rest of my life was exactly the same thing, because I this was my experience. I don't know how is it for others, but I could see how I become like a gear of this big machine. In Iran, you don't like schedule things 3 months in advance. You just make a decision and do it. But in Canada, you have to, even for buying a ticket, you have to do it like in 6 months before the event, to be able to have the discount, to be able to get the seat you want, and so many other things. So yeah, this is another experience that I had with power, and it was scary for me. It was scary.
Interesting.
It was very invisible. That's why it scared me, because it was invisible, but it was strongly there. You could feel it everywhere.
Well, it's like this whole set of codes, right? That's embedded in the culture. It's the how things work.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, back to the simplicity that I mentioned, I feel that these codes are something that really makes life difficult.
I mean, it's the can't I just go and do this? No.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
There are 25 steps and 3 forms and 2 agencies.
Yes. And my experience is that it's so easy to become selfless when you are surrounded with that many instructions, that many specialties, that many rules. Um, yeah. So here I can, for example, if my car is broken, um, I would call my friend and they would come and we try to do something. But there, I'm scared that if I do this, I might lose the warranty of the car, and so I don't want to touch it at all. And in a year or two, I would become completely handicapped. I can't do anything, and I have to just refer to this person and that person because of all these things.
Yeah, there is a loss of agency when there are so many efficient systems designed to take care of everything for you.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
I really feel happy and like fulfilled that you are familiar with these things and you have this sense in Mexico. So you know what I'm talking about. That's great.
Yeah, it's very similar. I actually have a lot of Mexican clients who, if they go to Canada or the US, they end up finding Middle Eastern partners. And something that they have said is, they're drawn to this mutual comfort in chaos.
Right. Yeah.
So it's interesting.
So much makes sense. It is.
Yeah, I feel much more at home in the chaos personally. So yeah. Interesting.
I don't know if you have ever read the book The Voice of Shame.
Yep.
There's a phrase there that really stood with me, and there it says that I feel it's very true. It said Eastern cultures are hysterical, but Western cultures are narcissistic. And I feel it makes so much sense, because when I experience our cultures, we are really annoyed by the lack of distance between us. So we're all rubbing against each other, and it drives us crazy. But there, the distances are so big that you just feel nothing. There's no one that you could have a contact with, like metaphorically. And one of the things that I learned in Canada, being an Iranian, was that if I can find that equilibrium between the Eastern culture and the Western culture, that could be so great and could be so helpful for my life.
Trying to unmute. No, I think it's interesting. The concept of shame really landed on me actually once in a workshop with Gary Yontef, where I decided to speak English with him in Mexico. And it was just owning that, yes, I am both. And taking up space as different within a culture that, was adopting me, but that I was trying to adapt to. And so there, some of just that shame in my difference and in my being both. It was interesting.
Well, it sounds like an impactful experience that you have had there. And shame is a big thing. Well, back to your question that what has formed my life, I think shame was definitely one of them, because I used to be a reserved, shy boy. And again, one of the things that really shifted my life was the Gestalt program that transformed me from that silent, shy, reserved guy into the wolf I would like to be.
Interesting. So that's actually where I would like to go, which is, how did you find Gestalt? How did it come into your life, and what was that like for you?
Before I left Canada, I was in therapy for years, and he was my first psychotherapist, and I owe him a lot. He's in his 90s these days, and he's a genius. And in those days, the only sorrow that I had was that I can't work with this person anymore. And one of the things that he told me almost before I leave Iran, he said, "You know what? You know as much as you need. You just need to take more risks and jump into the water." So when I moved to Canada, I was interested in psychotherapy, but back then I had no intention to become a psychotherapist. But as a seeker, I wanted to learn it. So I went through different websites of different approaches, and somehow I came across this word that Gestalt is experiential. And I was like, okay, so it's experiential. This is something that I need. And so I joined the program, and the first year was like a hell for me, because as you know, Gestalt is crazy. And for a shy person, it was killing me actually. But eventually I get used to it, and that was when I experienced that transformation from being a silent, shy guy into someone who could at least speak a little bit.
Yeah, that kind of hurts a little bit to hear, in the sense that, Gestalt is crazy and it sounds almost violent.
That's how I experienced it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's fair. A lot of people find that. I just noticed that I take a lot of care for it to be, supported growth instead of like violent opening up or tearing apart.
Yes, yeah.
But
for me, it's still an ongoing process to find a balance between being challenging enough and yet supportive enough. And I think it's like a narrow line depending on with whom we are working. So it really differs.
And it's about how much discomfort is tolerable and attractive and necessary, right?
Yes, sorry. And again, back to the question that you asked about some transformational events that I experienced in therapy. This was one of the things that I learned from Jay a lot. She's very confrontational, but she's such a big heart that the image that I have about her is that she takes your hand and comes with you in the fire. So it's fire, it's burning, it's hard to be there, but you can feel her hand and you can feel the support, and so you can endure and uh, do what you need to do.
So how would you say that your contact with Gestalt has affected you as a person?
I always have this in my mind that for me, Gestalt is not a therapeutic approach. It's more of a lifestyle. So that's how I experience Gestalt, being uh, being who we are as the only choice that we have. There's no other choice. So I think that's how it has affected me. Basically, it has uh, taken away this hope that there is another way for me to be someone different from who I am and still feel happy and uh, content with my life. So it took away that hope. Although I wish it wasn't true, but it is.
Damn the paradoxical theory.
Fear of change.
Interesting. So would you say that you feel like you're part of a Gestalt community? Does that mean anything to you?
I love this. Actually, I love to be part of the Gestalt community. So far, what I feel is that I'm part of the Gestalt Institute of Toronto community. And one of the reasons that I was very excited to talk with you when I received your email was that I was like, what is that? Humans of Gestalt. So I was very interested, and I would love to um, join the bigger community, and I would love to see it grow even more, because so far I can't see Gestalt being like a mainstream thing in the psychotherapy world. But and I have trained in other approaches as well, like bioenergetics, and I'm doing I don't know, 8 years program. I'm in the fourth year of analytical psychotherapy, yes, which is mostly self psychology. And what I have experienced so far is that Gestalt has so much potential. And one of the most important things about Gestalt is about that simplicity, about the body language, about that natural thing, natural way of communicating, the authenticity. So I really love Gestalt, and I hope I can see one day that it really grow and it goes beyond just being a therapy approach. It could be incorporated into teaching schools and how people live.
Okay. So what do you do with it? I mean, what is your unique sort of combination? Do you have particular projects, populations? Like, what is the essence of your practice with this?
Excuse me. Can you can you please explain more about this question? I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, you've talked about, Jay does this, or maybe Tony does that, or other people do this, but what do you do with it? I mean, the essence of if someone goes to you, this is how you practice. I mean, some people work specifically with certain populations, maybe people in prison or people recently released from prison. But is there something that's really characteristic about how or where or what you do?
I think so far, no. So far, there's not such a thing in my practice. The only thing that I can say, which is not about the group that I work with, but maybe my style is when I was in year two, um, uh, I had to do a seminar on introjection, and so Jay was there I did my seminar, and then at the end she said, Nima, I think your style is theatrical. I didn't get it back then, but when I started my own practice, gradually I just noticed that I am theatrical. I use every single thing and make it something and bring it into the work I'm doing with my clients. So that might be one of my characteristics. But in terms of the group that I work with, what I would like to do, and I'm not there yet, is to take it out of the therapy setting and bring Gestalt into the day-to-day world and use it. I don't know how, but in a way that could be more preventive, more. Um, it's hard to see people's lives being wasted or the losses people experience because of simple things that could have been prevented if someone knew what to do back then in their lives. So what I would like to do is to turn my focus from being a maintenance man into someone who would do something that could prevent harm. I don't know how yet, but that's that's my dream. That's what I would like to do.
That's really interesting. I mean, planting it in a different time and space, and
Yes, yeah.
in a interesting. And so, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you have faced? I mean, I guess this can be either within psychotherapy, within Gestalt, or a particular challenge that you faced in your life.
Mhm. Speaking English is one of the biggest challenges I have ever had. um, and I'm serious. I think it's really a challenge for me because there are lots of things that I want to say, but I don't know how to say them in English. The choice of words, and it's hard for me to say delicate nuances about things, and sometimes it makes me really feel handicapped. Before starting this interview, I was like, "Oh gosh, how am I gonna survive this interview?" And anyways,
Well, I appreciate you doing that because, I would be vastly more handicapped if we were changing the language.
um,
But I live in my second language too, so I do understand.
yeah, yeah. And I think Spanish is also a very rich language. So I'm not familiar with Spanish, but when I hear the songs and the music, I just have this feeling that okay, it's not a like a discrete language. It's very continuous and um, my biggest challenge. I guess these days I'm experiencing my biggest challenge, and that is how to. I'm trying to. Mm, mm, Currently, I see clients in different countries, but what I would like to do is to expand my practice to Australia and Canada. Excuse me. And the challenge that I'm experiencing these days, which is a lifeline experience for me, is that how to be visible, how to present myself without producing garbage. And by that, what I mean is that one of the like the basic things that you have to do in order to be visible in the world when doing something these days is that you have to have a website and you have to provide some content for it. And when I look at the contents, it's so clear that everyone is just producing something to be there, and it's sorry, but it's nonsense, and it's useless, and it's garbage. Um, so I don't want to participate in that direction and in that project. And at the same time, I can't find another way be out there.
It's
This is one of the.
almost a necessary evil.
It is. It is.
Mhm.
Yes. So far, I've been resisting not to surrender. I don't know how long I can hold it. But so this is a big challenge for me, how to present myself in the world. It used to be a challenge for me. It's still a challenge for me. And this is one of the places that it manifests itself. Uh, but I hope, and I really try to maintain this value. This is one of the other values that I have. I don't want to participate in what's common if it's not healthy or beneficial for human beings.
Interesting. So where do you see yourself going? Do you have a clear thought or project about that?
No, as I said, I feel I'm at crossroads and I can see something is coming, but it's not clear what it is. I can feel the hunger that I have, and I can feel that I'm kind of lost a little bit in terms of what you're asking, but I'm hopeful because I have experienced this a lot, and I know when I feel something is coming, it's gonna come. Uh, in my life, always I feel I was kind of late. I was always the last person who would arrive. But the way I have experienced myself is that although I'm late, but I would come like profoundly. That's how I experience myself. So fingers crossed. I think something would emerge, and I'm waiting for it.
It sounds like the fertile void.
Exactly. Yes.
Interesting. Okay, well, I'm wondering if there's anything else that you would like to add, if there's anything you feel I haven't asked about or brought in.
I really enjoyed our conversation, and it's really nice talking with you. And I'm so glad that I got to know you. I hope we could get in touch from Iran and Canada to Mexico.
Of course, yeah. I am actually curious. I have one more question, which is how has this whole, I mean, I guess everything, how are you parenting between Gestalt and this international identity set of yours? How are you experiencing parenthood or fatherhood?
You mean in terms of the different cultures, different methods, different perspectives?
Just how is it for you with, this whole relational Gestalt thing and cultures and your particular family? And how is parenting for you with all of this?
Um, I'm not sure if I understood your question correctly, but what I have to say is, um, I got married really late. I was 38 compared to our cultures. So 38 is already late.
Yeah, you were
And
almost dead.
exactly. Right. So, and I was scared back then to have children. I had this feeling that, oh, I can't do it. I don't know what to do. But when I had my first and the only child, my daughter, again, I think Gestalt really helped me because before being trained in the Gestalt approach, it wasn't easy for me to be playful and goofy and that kind of stuff. I was a serious engineer, very determined and very um, know-it-all. And but now I can see how playful I am, and I enjoy being playful with my daughter. And there are lots of moments actually that she's playful, but I'm more playful, and she gets surprised because of the step that I just took. And these days, I would say parenting is a gift for me. And I don't know if you have children or not,
Yes.
So, it's, I don't know even how to call it, but it's being a parent is like a gift. That's how I experience it. It's so, there's so much joy and pleasure and like fulfillment and oof, it's so rich. It's so rich. And so far I haven't experienced any difficulty being all these things, the Canadian, the Iranian, the Gestaltist, the engineer. I think it has brought some sort of variety and richness into my life. So far, they haven't been like conflictual. I don't
That's
know
interesting.
how
I
it
think
will
our
be in the future.
kids get, a very intimate picture of all of our parts, and they, yeah, interesting. Yeah, thank you. I was just curious about that. So
Sure.
my dog
Thank you.
apparently has opinions as well now. Yeah, but if it's okay, would you like to leave this conversation here for now? I've really enjoyed you and I'm appreciating this.
Yes, me too. I'm very grateful for what you do. And as I said, I really enjoyed getting to know you and having this conversation. And I would love to talk with you later on whenever you have time.
Yeah,
And,
sounds like
of
fun.
course, you're so welcome to come to Iran. I would be happy to be your host. And there are lots of things that you could visit here and enjoy.
I think that sounds amazing. Thank you.